Welcome to CSI Cooking Specialty Ingredients. Hi, I'm Sarah. This educational video for the Hospitality Education Foundation of Georgia has been made possible by a grant from the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program at the U.S. Department of Agriculture and funding from U.S. Foods and Dexter Russell. Hey Chef, what are we making today?
All right, so today we're going to explore cabbage. So we're going to do 3 different techniques. Raw salad. We're going to saute it, and then we're also going to braise it.
All right, what do we do first?
So we want to start with the raw.
Okay.
We're going to use a Napa cabbage. And then what we're going to do is, so you want to pull away any brown leaves, anything that has any bruising. So you want to remove anything that doesn't look like something you would want to consume.
How would you wash cabbage like this?
You would cut all your leaves, and you would fill up a sink with water and let it float at the top. And then all of the sand would come down onto the bottom of it.
Oh.
Take and cut the cabbage in half through the core.
Like this?
Just like that. Then you're going to cut it in half again through the core.
The inside's much wider than it is on the outside. Why is that?
So on the outside it gets a lot of sun, which is going to turn it green, and then the inside of the cabbage doesn't see a lot of sun.
That's why it's white?
That's why it's white.
Do they have different flavors?
They do. So the inner leaves are going to be a lot more tender. The outer leaves tend to be a little bit more bitter.
Oh.
Just a nice even cuts. There we go. That's enough for us for today. So this is a Savoy cabbage. The inner leaves are going to be a lot more tender. You do want to cut out the core. Just run your knife down both sides of the core.
You said you could make wraps out of this.
You can. This cabbage is also great for wrapping fish. Take one of the leaves, put it in a steamer, and it really keeps the fish nice and moist. We've got a couple of bell peppers here. Have you ever seen any other colors of peppers?
Green.
There's also purple peppers. There's orange peppers.
I didn't know there were purple peppers.
Absolutely. That can add a lot of color and depth of flavor in. And now we've got some great carrots.
Do carrots have different flavors?
So the smaller carrots tend to be sweeter. One more piece and we'll be good on the we'll be great on the carrots. And the green onions we're going to do now.
So how do you want us to do these?
You're going to do a long bias cut on it.
All right, that's not very traditional.
It's not. And why do you think we might do that?
I guess to make it look like all the other ones.
Absolutely.
So Chef, now we're going to make our vinaigrette.
We are. So what we're going to start with is 1/4 teaspoon of mustard. So then we're going to add 3 tablespoons of oil. And then what we're going to do on the vinegar is, so that we don't double dip the spoon, is we're going to do 3 teaspoons of the vinegar, and 3 teaspoons equals what?
1 tablespoon.
We're also going to add a small squeeze of honey, so about 1/4 teaspoon. And then we're going to add a pinch of salt and pepper. Just stir it real quick prior to adding to the vegetables. There we go.
Stays together. All right, Chef, so now we're going to assemble our slaw?
We are. We're going to take our cabbages, all of the rest of the vegetables, and add them to the bowl. And then we'll go ahead and give the vinaigrette one quick whisk together. And then you can pour that right over the top, and a little bit of salt and pepper.
If you were going to make this ahead of time, would you want to put the sauce right before you serve it?
So you wouldn't want the vinaigrette to sit on the cabbage for any more than about an hour, because at that point it would wilt them. So what we'll do now is we'll put it to the side, and we'll let it all those flavors come together, and we'll work on our sautéed cabbage.
Perfect. All right, what are we doing next with cabbage?
Be a sautéed Savoy cabbage, and then we're also gonna pair this sautéed cabbage with fennel and apples.
Okay.
On the fennel, we're actually going to use the tops, and we're going to use the bulb. So if you can break off some of these fennel fronds, we're going to use that to garnish our finished cabbage. So the fronds look very similar to dill, but you're going to have a completely different flavor to them.
Is that kind of licoricey?
Absolutely. And you cut it off at the bulb, and then you're going to cut through it. Cut through it again to safely remove the core. And then we're going to cut julienne slices out of this. All right, so next on our list, so this is a Fuji apple, so we just need a dice on that. And this apple I chose because it's a juicy apple, it's a crisp apple, and it not get mealy and fall apart.
All right, Chef, where do we begin with this?
And we want to really let that pan warm up before we add the oil.
Okay.
Just enough to kind of coat the bottom of the pan. And we're going to start with our fennel, season it with some salt. All right, so the reason we started the fennel first is the fennel is the hardest of the ingredients, and we wouldn't want it to be raw and the cabbage to be mush.
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
We can go ahead and add our apples. See that fennel right there, how it's caramelized, and you're getting
yeah.
some really nice color on it. Now we can go ahead and add our cabbage.
Does the cabbage cook down?
Absolutely. You know, this cabbage will probably take 4 to 5 minutes to saute, and you can kind of see the cabbage is wilted down. The volume's probably about half. Great job. And we can go ahead and shut off our heat and reserve it for tasting.
All right. All right, Chef, what are we doing now?
So our next one is going to be one of my favorites. This is braised red cabbage.
Okay, how do we do that?
So our first step in our mise en place is to go ahead and julienne the red cabbage.
Okay. Why is this one better than that one?
So this one has a lot of outer leaves. This one has already had a lot of the outer leaves peeled off, and it's ready to be used.
All right, Chef, how are we going to braise this?
Got a preheated pan to medium high, and we're going to add just a little bit of oil, about a tablespoon. There we go. Perfect. And add our Vidalia onions, salt and pepper those.
What does braised mean?
That we're going to saute, then the cabbages still have a nice crisp to it, and then we're going to cook it down in liquid. And so some might choose to leave the liquid in, or depending on what you were doing, you could strain it out. We don't have to cook the onions all the way out because it's going to cook a little bit more. So we can go ahead and add red cabbage. It's going to cook down quite a bit, so it might look like a lot. Hit it with some salt and pepper.
Build on the flavor.
Absolutely.
The purples were really pretty contrast, though.
Absolutely. And then you can go ahead and pour the juice.
Should we let it sit, or?
You can. This will take a little bit of time to break down all that cabbage all the way.
Can you go too far with this?
You can. You want it to have a little bit of texture, and you want it to have the definition of the cabbage.
And not just fall apart in your mouth.
You could cover this and go ahead and keep continuously stirring it now so we can get all those flavors together. Make sure that the liquid's not starting to burn on the bottom of the pan. All right, and we're good. Looks great.
Does.
All right, and next we're going to try all of our cabbage dishes and see how the cabbage flavor varies from raw to sauteed to braised.
I can't wait for that. All right, so we're going to plate up?
We are. So we moved on to the portion where we get to try all of our work. So we want to start with the raw.
Okay. It's not nearly as hard as it was when we first started.
But it's still got that crunch you're looking for in a nice raw salad. All right, so this is the sauteed Savoy cabbage with the apples and fennel.
Put our topping on it.
Garnish of the fennel fronds.
Very fresh.
All right, and then our red cabbage.
The color's so bright compared to the other two. Those are more springtime. That's a very different flavor. Yeah, the cooking technique really changes it.
Changes the texture, it changes the flavor, it changes the sweetness. So which is your favorite?
The braised one. It's really good. I like the apple juice in it. It's very good. Which one do you like?
So I really enjoyed the sauteed Savoy cabbage because of the way that the caramelized fennel plays off of the cabbage, and then that apple just adds a little bit of sweetness to it at the end.
Yeah, different textures.
It is.
Hey chef, hey chef, hey chef. So do the different colors in the peppers change the way it tastes?
They do. They often change the different sweetness levels. The red and the yellow are definitely sweeter than the green. The purple, I think, is even sweeter than that.
Okay. Hey chef, hey chef, hey chef. So why apples?
The apples add some sweetness to it. You will see it, especially in German cuisine. It also adds some color to it and a little bit of crunch.
Okay. Hey chef, hey chef, hey chef. I suppose when it starts wilting, it's going to wilt quickly.
It will. When you saute it, you don't want it to go completely soft, like a braised cabbage. You want it to retain some of its texture and just release some of its moisture and just wilt down slightly.
Okay. Hey chef, hey chef, hey chef. What type of season would you eat this in?
So cabbage is readily available. While we're using the Savoy, you could also use green if it's not available. You could use red, you could use the Napa. The green you would have to saute a little bit longer along with the red, whereas the Napa you would actually saute a little bit less because it's a little bit of a softer cabbage.
Okay. Hey chef, hey chef, hey chef. How many types of cabbage are there?
So there are many different kinds of cabbage, including a lot of heirlooms. The most popular are the green, the red, Napa, Savoy, and bok choy.
Bok choy. So other countries use this as well.
They do. So the Napa cabbage and the bok choy are traditionally used in Asian cuisine. However, they've gotten a large following in the Americas.
Okay. Well, this was fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm glad you enjoyed.